Previously, we made it so the properties panels for our drawables just put a label in there so that we could tell that we were clicking on them. But really, we'd like to be able to change properties. For the rectangle and the text, it would just be nice to show that we can do it, and it's part of our understanding how to interact with GUIs. For the transform, there's really not much point in talking about the transform until we have the ability to edit the properties panels on it. So we're actually going to start with our rectangle. And remember, there is this method in here called properties panel that returns a node. And right now we just have it give us back a new label. Now, one thing about this is this might get called several times for the same rectangle. I don't want to rebuild the panel every single time, or whatever it is that we're going to use here. So I'm going to make a private var, and I'm going to call it prop panel. And it will be of the type option of node, and it's going to start off as none. And I want this to be the ScalaFX scene node. And once we've done that import, we can shorten this version here. Now at the bottom of this, we're going to wind up saying prop panel.get. Now of course that would be an unsafe thing to do if properties panel were none. So we're going to start off by saying if prop panel dot is empty, then we need to do something, and the last thing inside of here is going to be to set the prop panel. So we'll wind up setting that to a value that will be sum of something. In fact, I guess technically I could even say sum of that. Okay. So now what? We need to decide how we're going to lay this out. We need to decide what we need to display. Well, the properties we have to set are X, Y, width, height, and color. Okay, so I'm willing to just stack those vertically in our graphical display, and we can do that inside of a GUI using something called a VBox. So previously we've used split panes and we've used a border pane. There is a type called a VBox, spelled like that, and I need to say a new VBox. And as the name implies, it stacks things vertically. So basically stuff gets as much space as it wants side to side, but everything will be stacked on top of it of each other in the vertical direction. Now what needs to go into here? Well, for each of the X, Y, width, and height, I need to have something that will basically, I need a text field next to a label telling us what we're doing, and I need it so that when they change the text field, it updates the value, and then ideally refreshes the drawing. Okay, so that's quite a bit to ask for here. Let's start coding this up to see what it would look like. So I need a border panel, or border pane. And the reason I'm going to use a border pane, I guess I could actually possibly also use an H box and put things next to each other. But I want to put a label. Actually, I can probably just say border pane, because the label doesn't change, dot left equals a new label that's just going to say X in it. Okay. Oh no, capital, lowercase, doesn't really matter. And then next to that needs to be a text field, which is a new text field, and that text field needs to start off with the value. Let's see, we could go look in the API. Nope, that is not allowed. So text field dot text equals X dot to string. I need to say border pane dot center equals text field, and then I need to make it so this text field interacts with stuff. I also need to add this border pane to the VBox. So we'll say panel dot children equals border pane, except this needs to be, well, I guess that'll work for a single thing. In reality, I'm going to need a whole sequence of these, so I'll just say that I have a list. Okay, how to make this interactive? Well, for that we have text field. I think I really only want this to happen when we stop editing the text field. So I could make it so that it happened every time there was a change or when there was an action. We'll go ahead and do it. I really don't want to do it every time the text changes, because if I'm typing in 532, I don't want to redraw at the 5, the 3, and the 2. I do want it to happen if they hit enter, and it turns out that produces the on action, which we have seen before, and so I would just need to take and make an action event here. Now this is one of these places where I'll put some curly braces, we'll import the action event, and then you'll see that there's an error. You might recall I previously said that for imports we will often need this one. Okay, that import is once again critical for making it so that this action event works. What would need to happen here? Well, I believe what needs to happen here is we need to set probably set x equal to the text field dot text dot text, which is a string property, dot value. I didn't really want that version, dot to double. I could have also used the parentheses here instead to call apply. Okay, so that sets the x value, and then theoretically I'd like to be able to draw this. Now for that to work, I would need to be able to tell the drawing to draw. I don't have a drawing here. Maybe we should think about how we're going to fix that. For now I'm just going to comment that line out and remember that that's something I need to do in a bit. Okay, now this is the point where I start to look at this and go, wow, everything from here to here has to be repeated for y, for width, and for height. Okay, and then the color is going to be something completely different. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines of code. They're all going to look the same. I'm going to have to come up with separate names for the pane, for the field, for all these things that really I don't need. Okay. So what I want to do instead of duplicating this code, because it turns out when we go into the text, I have to set its x and y and its text as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these lines, and so that I don't duplicate them, I'm going to take them out of the rectangle, and I'm going to come to drawing main. And you might recall in our design we had an extra method that was listed there, def labeled text field. And the goal of this method is to give us back it'll actually give us back the border pane, and we're going to have to pass some things into here. I'll have to figure out in just a second what those things are. Okay, so it makes a border pane. That works quite nicely. It makes a label. Well, we should probably pass in the text we want, because not everything is going to say X here, so we could call this the label string is a string, and instead of X we could just do label string. Okay, we're building a text field. We need an initial value for the text field, so we might call that the initial text, and that's a string, and we'll replace this here. We set that into the border pane. Okay, I'm happy there. We set an action here. Actually, in addition to the action, I'd like this to also react to focus. So this is another thing that would have been duplicated for every time we want to do this. And then I have this. Okay, this has to set something, but it has to set something back over here in the rectangle. And it not only has to set something, it has to somehow do this drawing. It turns out that this code almost can't know what actions to take here. Okay, so what I need to do instead, and let's go ahead and put border pane down there so it gives that back to make this happy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in one extra argument here, which I will call action. And action has the type of string to unit. Okay. And basically in this location I am just going to say action of text field dot text dot value. So whatever the text field's text is, I'm going to pass that to this action, and then this can decide what the action is. So okay, and then the other thing was I did want this to respond to focus. So one of the things about GUIs is you can have your focus in, we're going to have at least 4 or 5 different text fields here. When you type, it goes to different places. Where it goes depends on where the focus is. Okay, so whatever area element has focus, that's where your keystrokes go to. So I want, turns out there is a read-only Boolean property here called focused, and because it's a property, it has an onChange method. And so we can tell it what we want to do. And so if the focus has been lost, so I want to be specific here, if we don't have focus, so text field dot focused dot value, and that was a not on that. So if we don't have focus, because when you gain focus, I don't want to do this. So when you leave focus, when they either click away from the field or tab off the field, that's when I want to do basically the same thing we did up here. I want to call our action. Okay, so if they either hit enter or they click away and we lose focus, I want to invoke the action. So now we can come back here and I can make, how about we call it the X field is going to be drawing main dot labeled text field. The label string we said was just X. The initial is X dot toString. And then the action. Okay, this is where, remember, this is going to be passed as a function that takes in a string, and it's supposed to do whatever it is that we wanted to do. So since it's a function, I'm going to say sRocket, and I'm going to go ahead and put some curly braces here just to help make this a little bit more readable. I could try to put it all in one line, but I don't want to. Okay, so what am I going to do here? Well, first thing that we had was we said that the X value needs to be set to the X, or the string converted to a double. Okay, and we also wanted to redo the drawing. So drawing.draw, which hasn't been implemented yet, so we'll just leave that there. So now this is all I have to do to make one field, and I can copy this and paste it for each of the different fields that I have. We'll come back, we'll do that in the next video, and we'll also see how we can add a color in here, and then we'll go on and add something similar quickly to the text.